right, what is good? Deepak Chona, SportsMid Analytics, bringing you today's NFL injury updates. Thank you very much for joining. Now let's get it poppin'. Starting with George Kittle. So he's on the IR. They initially announced a timeline of 3 to 5 weeks. Now, keeping in mind that he is age 31, he does have an extensive soft tissue history, including prior hamstring strains. So the data here would lean us towards that 5-week timeline as the most likely. The key here with performance after the return is that it's a relatively quick ramp up. Tight ends average about a 15% dip in their production, but again, it's only 1 to 2 week ramp up. The other key is the re-injury risk, and again, with his soft tissue history plus this injury and the relative severity of it, the data predicts about a 20% re-injury risk for the season, and a re-injury would probably mean another stint on the IR. Then Brock Purdy. So to be determined on his week 2 status, he's dealing with a toe plus a shoulder. The toe is reportedly more severe than the shoulder, according to Shanahan. Now, the thing that would lean us towards playing week 2 is that the shoulder is on his non-throwing side. You saw the defender kind of land on him, and it looks like a mild AC joint sprain mechanism. Typically, that would be played through on the non-throwing side for a quarterback, and he played pretty well in the second half, even despite the first half injury. Now, it's unclear when he sustained the toe injury, and the exact diagnosis is a little bit unclear as well. Most common issue here would be a turf toe that would often be played through. Inserting a plate into the shoe can help with that as well. We'll just have to see on practice reports for Purdy. Then Drake London. Now, AC joint sprain, by the reports, they're just talking about him being day-to-day, so it suggests a milder type of injury. Average is 1 to 2 weeks, so we would lean towards him playing week 2. Keep in mind that wide receivers tend to see a mild dip, usually about 10%, but Drake London with a 10% dip is probably still a wide receiver 1. His target share was unreal last week. Then Kenneth Walker. So this is a little bit interesting. He's not on the injury reports. He's been in and out of the preseason practices with reported foot soreness. And going back to last year, he ended the year with a foot and ankle injury as well. He has a little bit of a soft tissue history on top of that. He had 40% of the snaps relative to Charbonnet's 56. So with that in mind, it's unclear if that's injury versus usage. It's possible also that it was just the effect of not being available all through early preseason and camp that led to them liking Charbonnet more and more. It's not totally sure where this one's going, but there's a high risk for a lingering usage dip for Kenneth Walker. Then Jauan Jennings, reportedly MRI and CT both came back clean. We would lean towards him playing week 2. Xavier Worthy, now they're calling him potentially day by day or day to day. It's a little unclear. With that being said, we would lean towards him missing week 2. Average timeline on these is about 3 weeks, and players come back with a very high re-injury risk, and that's around 50% for the season. This is obviously a week 1 injury, so keeping in mind that for him to go all season without a re-injury is somewhat unlikely, so we would consider trading him away post-return. Then Brock Bowers. So looks like a mild knee sprain by the video, and the comments suggest the same, so we would lean towards him playing week 2. They have the extra day of rest as well, so that helps also. Then Jayden Reed. So he had a 51% snap share in week 1. He started the week estimated as DNP, then today a limited practice. It suggests that he didn't have any setbacks, then also that he would likely play week 2. We are going to commonly see him likely be listed as DNP or LP throughout the practice weeks in the first half of this season. The re-injury risk is relatively high the first 6 weeks of this season because of that Jones fracture. It just hasn't had enough time to heal yet. But we would anticipate that as long as he doesn't have any setbacks, we would anticipate that his snap count either stays the same or increases. And keep in mind, he had about 40 yards and a touchdown last week, so he is a good player even in that limited snap count. Then Matthew Golden, he is listed as a full practice today. It's an estimated full practice, but he's off the report. And importantly, it's unclear when exactly he got injured. He picked up an ankle injury that he got listed with on Monday, But the key here is that he had a 66% snap share in week 1. And it's possible, although, like I said, unclear, if that may be related to an ankle injury which he sustained in-game. They were raving about him before the season started, and it's possible that the week 1 dud was just a result of perhaps a small injury. Then Evan Ingram, he's dealing with a calf strain. He has an extensive soft tissue history. He also age over 30 doesn't work in his favor. The coming practices in the next 2 days will be the key to really informing the severity on how bad his injury was. But keep in mind that the average on these is about 2 weeks, so most data would favor missing week 2. Then Christian Watson just got an extension, actually just today it broke. But that keeps us in mind that the Packers are not likely to be rushing him back. They're probably playing the long game with Christian Watson here. The data here favors a late October to early November return. He is a 90-plus percentile athlete on his athletic metrics, including like the 40-yard dash, vertical jump, those types of things. And he is young. So that together predicts a rapid ramp up. He's at a little bit of increased injury risk for hamstring strains when he first comes back because, one, he has an extensive history, and two, the hamstring is the most at risk when players come back because it kind of helps stabilize the ACL, so it's almost working overtime in the early phase of the recovery. Again, that's the first 6 weeks back. His soft tissue injury risk a little higher than average, but nonetheless, we would expect to see him back in a good capacity. Then Darnell Mooney. So he was a game-time decision leading up to last week and was actually able to log 3 limited practices last week as well. That progression would typically result in a playing week 2, even though he didn't play week 1. If he is dealing with an AC joint sprain, and we haven't seen that confirmed, but the mechanism that they described does imply it, then wide receivers would typically see a rapid ramp up. Then Christian Kirk of my Texans, he is reportedly improving, but the data here still favors missing week 2. We would lean towards him coming back week 3, but we'll find out a little more with the practice reports. Austin Ekeler playing on the Thursday night game, and he was listed as limited ×2 now with a shoulder injury. We would lean towards him playing, no limitations really suspected. Then Chris Godwin. So they reported a week 5 target timeline. Ian Rappaport reported that the second surgery was reportedly tightening the hardware. Now, truly tightening the hardware, you're putting in a plate and screws, you're putting it in tight already. Tightening the hardware is pretty rare, but what is not uncommon is removing some of the hardware, and that's relatively common, also relatively minor. It wouldn't really be a true setback. So we're not totally in the clear on the Chris Godwin second surgery news, but that report suggests to me that there was some alteration in the hardware and perhaps it was just needing to be removed. Either case, wide receivers average a 20% dip until their 1 year post injury, and that for him would be about week 8. We would lean towards a slow ramp up here, keeping in mind that they didn't rush him back for week 1, even though most players would have actually made it back by then. And then secondly, they gave him a long-term contract. So they are playing a little bit of the long game. They obviously added Ibuka, who had a strong first showing. So with that all in mind, we would anticipate a slow ramp up for Chris Godwin. Then Joe Mixon, unfortunately not great optimism here. Most non-operative injuries of the foot and ankle would have healed by now. It's been about 3 to 4 months. It's reportedly he had this since May. And now he is giving me increasingly high concern for missing the entirety of the season. Then Will Shipley, he has fractured a rib. The average on that is about 3 weeks. The Eagles just traded for Tank Bigsby, and that suggests that they know Will Shipley is probably going to miss some time. Unclear to what extent, meaning if he fractured more than one rib, that timeline goes up. But in most cases, 2 to 3 weeks would be what you're looking for. Then Isaiah Likely, it's possible for him to be returning week 2. He has a suspected Jones fracture that got fixed late in the offseason, but they were talking about a 6-week timeline, which would have been around week 1, but average is actually 8 weeks, so that would be week 3. The data suggests week 3 to 4 is the most likely situation here, and when he comes back, most players do see a performance dip pretty noticeably for about the first 4 weeks back. Then Christian Gonzalez, he's been out about 6 weeks now with a hamstring strain, but they just cut one defensive back, which suggests that Christian Gonzalez may be returning soon. Also, if you're into the Instagram story interpretation, he did just post a picture of himself in cleats, and that's also promising. Then Micah Parsons, he's logged 2 limited practices so far this week. He is likely playing, and he will probably be logging limited practices due to this back issue that he's been dealing with. But he did log a 45% snap share week 1 and reportedly was lobbying to be given more snaps. So we would think that rises week 2 onwards. He looked excellent in his week 1 game. Then Blake Cashman, he pulled up Monday night with a hamstring strain, looked on the more severe side just from the injury, but it's a little difficult to assess hamstrings in severity on video. The comments, though, do suggest a high severity. To be determined, really, but we would lean him towards the IR. Then Dre Greenlaw, so he's been dealing with a quad strain, reportedly re-aggravated it relatively recently. The comments from Sean Payton said sooner rather than later is what we should expect from Dre Greenlaw. We would think that means probably week 2 to 3, but usually with a snap count when you have somebody coming off a soft tissue re-aggravation, and especially given his history of an Achilles and other soft tissue injury. Then the Nick Emanawori for the Seahawks, he had a high ankle sprain. He was playing relatively well, but it was very early in the game. And this averages about 4 weeks for defensive backs. The key here is that given that he's a young player, there's a pretty high re-injury risk if they rush him back. Then Nate Hobbs for the Packers, he underwent surgery presumably on his meniscus in late off season. Most players would return within about 6 weeks, which would be week 2 to 3 for him. He's got limited practice times 2 so far. We would think he's able to return potentially this week, but within the next 2, we would certainly expect to see him back. A little less optimism on Zach Tom. He's been DNP times 2 so far this week, dealing with an oblique strain. These are often played through, but the key is that they're on Thursday night. So as a result of that, we would actually lean towards him sitting. Also on the Packers O-line, Aaron Banks, he's also DNP times 2 to start the week. A little uncommon for a player to start DNP times 2 and then be able to suit up by Thursday. So with that being said, there's a strong chance of him returning week 3. It sounds like he's going to be a game time decision for week 2. So again, strong chance of returning week 3. Then the Steelers, DeShon Elliott, he has an MCL sprain. Average here is a pretty quick ramp up, but after 2 to 3 weeks out. So we would lean him towards a week 3 to 4 return. And then Derrick Harmon, also dealing with an MCL sprain for the Steelers. He is likely sounding like a week 3 return. Tomlin has actually said he's not coming back this week. And that's all we got for today. Thank you again for joining, and we'll catch you soon.